everybody. I'm Chris, and I'm going to talk to you about one of our newest products, which is very much on the verge of being released, which is called Automated Arrears Prevention. So this is another one that's been added to our suite of automation products. The idea being that it can automate some or even all of the actions that your officers may take on a day-to-day basis. So I guess the first question, what is Automated Arrears Prevention? So I'll talk a little bit around it, and then we'll go into some of the detail on how it works and the sort of technology behind it. So it uses machine learning, which is a new technology that we've been working with recently, as Don mentioned. It uses, I say it's a large rent data set. I think it's the largest rent data set in the industry. It's close to 2 million records that we have, and it uses that to analyze patterns and to work out where it should recommend somebody to us or where it should not recommend somebody to us. And then off the back of those recommendations, it will make a light touch contact to try and nudge positive behavior from the tenant. So what is machine learning, first of all? So everyone's heard of artificial intelligence. You're going to hear a lot more about it this afternoon from Dom. It's definitely flavour of the month, but it's a lot more than that as well. Every day it seems like we're seeing something more that it can do, something shocking that we didn't know that it was going to be able to do, that's going to be able to help us. Machine learning is essentially a subset. It's a specific type of artificial intelligence, which involves creating, so if you can create any kind of algorithm, a developer can create any kind of algorithm to make some decisions that you want to make. Where machine learning especially comes in is where the kind of complexity of those decisions is so vast that trying to code in all of the relevant gates and the flow chart to go through would be nigh on impossible. So the idea is that you can say, here are some examples of results that we would want to see. Here are some examples of results that we don't want to see. Go and find more. Look across this, like I said, nearly 2 million records. Go look across that and find similar patterns that exist between the ones that we've said we want to see and find me more like that. And that's essentially how it works. And so AAP, as I said, is within that machine learning circle of AI. So in terms of how this model works, the first thing it does is use the model that's been created, that we've basically taught how to work. It will use that, analyze the data of the tenants as they are today, and from that it will generate insights. And those insights essentially boil down to a risk score. We think that within the next 3 months, this particular tenant has a risk score of 75% of going into arrears. This one has a 92% of going into arrears. And dependent on how high they fall within that risk score, we will run a campaign. So what we're sending is essentially nudge messages. It's trying to hit a very specific tone of being sort of not sort of screaming and shouting, because by definition, we are looking at people who, for the last 3 months at least, have been in credit. They've got a good credit balance, and they probably think everything is absolutely fine. But perhaps their rent's gone up and they've not amended their standing order, or they're running down the credit, and we just want to remind them, don't forget that you're coming towards the end of that, for example. So we want to send a message that doesn't sound like it's a generic message that's just going out to all of the tenants everywhere, but we don't want it to make it sound like it's scary, like we're raising the alarm, because the fact is it is a prediction. It's not something that's happened, it's something we think probably will happen. And so it's trying to hit that nice tone where you get them to take an action. A bit like, as Dom likes to mention, maybe at the end of your month, you might get a note from your credit card company to say, don't forget, you've got a payment due the 3rd of the month. And so maybe just prompt you just to go and check your online account, make sure you've got enough money to pay it, those kind of things. So we do want to prompt an action, but we don't want to scare them. So I think we've probably hit that tone quite nicely. We'll come on to the specifics of the message a little bit later on. So after we've sent these messages, we analyse the results. So that's the results in terms of how effective was the message. did we see good reactions from the tenants in terms of the message that was sent, but also did the predictions that we make seem to come true? So analysing on both of those and using that to feed back in, improve the model, improve what we do with it, and ultimately, the next time that runs, the model should be incrementally better. And sort of by doing this continuous cycle of sending, analysing, rerunning, reanalyzing, we get this kind of virtuous cycle where everything is just a little bit better every time, and hopefully over time the accuracy and the number of cases that we actually will pick up is only going to go up. So this here is basically how we see the process working from a behavioural point of view. So you can see here the yellow line is what may be happening to a tenant. So this is a fairly obvious linear, pretty linear, straight down. There's no doubt what's happening there. The actual model can pick up on much more subtle cues than this, but for the benefit of making it clear on a presentation, we've put it this way. And so you can see this purple line is about the point we would look to intervene, there or thereabouts. And you can see what we're predicting is this red line is a similar, is somebody who has been messaged, and you can see the change in behaviour where they make an extra payment, increase their payments, and make a change in behaviour. So the actual message that we're sending looks something like this. Now it's personalisable for every client, but like I say, we are trying to hit a tone. So you can see, please review your payments, just double check you're paying enough, hoping to prompt that they can self-manage their account if you've got an online portal, for example, and just try and hit that nice sweet spot between scaring people, which you don't want to do because the idea is to remove stress, but similarly, you do want them to actually take an action. And so actually, because we've been running this for a couple of months now, that the previous example was essentially made up, let's say. It was created to show the effect. We can actually see this is one anonymised tenant who has actually been messaged via this campaign. You can see the purple, the little dot of purple line here. That is the continuation of the of history and the forecasted balance. And you can see, I don't know if you can see the little purple arrow, that's where a message was sent, and you can see instantly there was a change in behaviour. They made a payment, and hopefully they will continue to rectify that to get themselves back up into a full credit position. And in fact, this has only been, like I say, it was only running for 2 months now. In reality, we'll probably have contacted these a little bit earlier, had it have been running a month earlier, so the effect would have been even better. So the benefits of this, they feel like they all kind of feed into each other to a certain extent. So first of all, obviously, we hope to prevent tenants dropping into arrears. So from our statistics, we think that quite a significant proportion of tenants, if they do drop into arrears, takes around 20 contacts before they actually get back out of arrears. So the amount of effort that you can save by simply stopping them going to arrears in the first place, and the change in terms of the arrears balance to you guys, is absolutely massive. But so it does reduce the arrears balance, but off the back of that, it's also reducing the caseload, because these are tenancies that would have dropped into rent sense recommendations at some point in the future, and now they're not going to. So that means that the officers can spend more time working on those kind of cases that essentially automation really couldn't deal with. They're too nuanced. They need a human touch to understand the situation, to have the right conversation at the right time, where a computer is just not a person, so it's going to struggle to do that kind of thing. And hopefully, by doing that, by having more time to deal with those more complex, more, let's say, interesting, more rewarding cases, hopefully the officers feel like they're adding more value as well, than simply send a message, make a phone call to some of these where automation could have just dealt with that. As Paul was mentioning, we're definitely, we're a tech for good company, and that is at the heart of the things that we do. So these are some of the things that I know as Mobysoft, and certainly myself, that I'm especially pleased that hopefully this will be able to deliver, and that is the improvement to tenant well-being. So nobody wants to go into debt, of course, and especially the sort of people that we're looking at here are oftentimes going to be people who don't think there is a problem because they are in credit. They have been in credit and they think they're going to continue to be in credit. And so by being able to just let them know that perhaps there's something you need to look at, keeping people out and reducing that stress, that anxiety, and also hopefully giving them the tools to self-manage going forwards as well. That's something that I think we're especially proud of, that it delivers. So just a quick overview before I leave you as to how we got to where we are. So this started, it was actually the back end of last year, December, January. It was just that it was an idea. It was something that the data guys were playing about with, essentially trying to get something going. By the middle of the year, we had a relatively solid proof of concept. And so we engaged with a number of our clients, some of which are in the room today, who've been especially helpful, back and forth, giving us a lot of time to improve the model. So they would say, we don't think you should have recommended this one. Okay, let's take it back in. Let's work out why it did recommend it. Let's fix that and let's try again. And so by simply sending across the raw data, and again, thank you to those clients who have helped us with this, we've been able to refine that model and get it to something that we're really pretty happy with, to be fair, really proud of. So as of September, the first campaign went out, real life campaign for a couple of clients, and we've since expanded that to some more clients as well. And now it's just basically running as normal now. And as I say, as of November, it's actually live to be implemented to anyone who should want to take it, really. I think that's about it from me. So if anyone does have any, looks like there's a question, please go.
Just to confirm, Chris.
Yeah.
The way that the automated messaging works, there isn't input from the officers to do that. The system does that itself. There's no real input as such.
Yeah, it's entirely automated. Yeah, entirely. There's absolutely zero input. In terms of the messages that have been sent, by the way, if anyone's interested, you can actually see, if you have direct messaging set up, you'll know you've got a communications tab. They will also be displayed in there as an individual message that went to that tenant. If you look on the analytics tab, there's the direct messaging dashboard on there where you'll be able to see all of your messages, including the automated messages. And we're actually working on an additional dashboard which is going to specifically look at AAP, the efficacy of it, and the messages that have been sent of that. As of yet, there is no right back into the housing management systems. There's a lot of things that we're looking at to essentially take it to another level, but as of yet, no, unfortunately not. Yeah.
Just wondered, you said it's been running a couple of months now, and you gave us an example of one tenant, but what's the overall? Everyone's shown me, I know it's very good.
I'm hesitant to give any definitive numbers, but so it's been run for a couple of months, and so as I say, so one of the things is that we are predicting for up to 3 months. So even for our first run, we have not hit that first 3-month threshold yet. But we are seeing, in terms of an improvement in behaviour, that is a payment change, an additional payment, an increased payment, I think of, and I must say this is a small subset of data, so please don't take it to the bank. We're seeing a 17% change in behaviour as it stands, but that is simply payment. As we've spoken to people about it, payment is, I guess we have been quite harsh on ourselves by saying only a payment. Yeah, so we're having it where it's prompting, sometimes just conversation is fine. Prompt to call in to have a conversation and sort of rectify. There's a whole manner of behaviour change which we don't yet have access to see. We only have transactional data at the moment. And as I say, it's only going to get better. We're only going to see more things. So I think... Yes, we are. It's literally being worked on as we speak, all of that stuff. We're trying to show, like I say, we're working on a dashboard, working on pulling information. It's just so brand new that we just simply don't have it yet. It's, as I say, 9 days old, arguably, in terms of its full release. As I know it has been running a couple of months, but it's pretty much a newborn at the moment. So hopefully as time comes, keep an eye on your newsletters, as the poll says, keep speaking to your CSMs. You'll find out more about it. and hopefully we can start to really drill down into just how effective is this. And my gut feel on it is 70% is not an optimistic estimation. I think it's probably going to be hopefully quite a bit better than that, especially, as I say, when you start to think about what actual positive behaviours want to drive out of the back of it. So yeah, any more questions? If you don't want to ask them now, I'm Chris Heywood. You'll be able to get hold of my contact details, chris.heywood@mobysoft.com. Feel free to send me a message. Feel free to speak to your CSMs. Any way you want to ask your questions at any time in the future. Oh, sorry, one more.
It's not a question for you, it's a question I should have asked for Josh when you were done. In terms of the holds, we've had holds a while, we've been putting ourselves, so you guys manage that for us. But one of the things that I love to lose, as you know, is the justification for a hold. It allows me to manage staff decision making and things like that and ensure quality. And I'm nervous about losing that by using this tool. Is there any plans to introduce that?
Yeah, we are looking at reason codes moving forwards in terms of further development. It's just something, like we said, we kept it super simple. And I think the beauty of on hold in its current kind of state is you can use it or you don't use it. If it doesn't fit for you in terms of the way that it operates at the minute, you can just not use it, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving forwards, yeah, we need to ensure that it's good for everybody. So yeah, moving forward, looking at reason codes in the future into 2024 as it develops.
It's particularly useful to do cross patchworking as well. You know, as we show you all when staff are off, and being able to understand why something's being held is quite important.
Yeah, I think the idea is that we can develop that into, like I said, in terms of the development, it's really moving towards kind of how we report it, how the analytics come out. I think reason code we can kind of package it to that. As I said, when it comes to like stats like versus completion rates and things like that, I think we can also add on things like reason codes, all that kind of reporting as well. So I think it'll just come into a big package really. So it is something to look at.
I think I just wanted to say really quickly, in terms of sort of product development, the way we approach things is we look at something to deliver or release to you, and we engage with some customers who don't mind in being in that experimental phase for a little while with us, such as with Automated Arrears Prevention or Case on Hold. But then we do appreciate that there are some customers who want to wait for it to be absolutely perfect before we roll it out to them, and that's fine too. It just means that we're trying to get things out as quickly as possible to try and get that value to our customers, because otherwise you'd be waiting a lot longer to basically try and achieve any of these sort of benefits that we're trying to deliver. So we're all continually always looking at that feedback. So just like you said there, Jackie, that might be the next thing that we develop in Case on Hold as well. If we get that feedback from a lot of customers saying, actually, we'd like a reason to be put in there, that's something that we look at. So the work is never done, I think is probably what I'm trying to say. We'll continue evolving. So I'm going to pass over to Josh on case list.
So this is going to be another example of keeping something quite simple in terms of a basic product that we can work on moving forwards. In terms of a bit of context as to how we do it, why we're doing this, like I said at the start, this is something, so the advanced case list was something that we took to our first product focus group. For those in the room that were there, they will probably have heard of it as the all cases view. That was the kind of first initiation of it. We've now brought it forward in terms of getting it towards delivery. We've had to choose a name, which is the advanced case list. In terms of the context as to kind of why we're doing this, I guess it kind of joins together everything that we've been saying today in terms of the customer insight that we've got. And this is an example of a part of the product that we've really focused on gaining that customer insight and that customer feedback before actually putting it in place and ultimately understanding whether it started off life as a good idea and that customers were actually going to use it. And then we've kind of developed it on moving forward from there. So there's a few quotes in terms of kind of framing what advanced case list looks like and what it's going to be. People asking for kind of more holistic views, support with workload. You can probably see quite a nice pattern there, and that's stuff that's come from direct feedback, NPS insights, all the surveys that we send out as well. So this is something that started out life as a problem that customers were bringing forward to us, and from our side of things we brought that through to a product feature. In terms of the concept of advanced case lists, so the easiest way that I used to describe it to people is it's a bit like any kind of e-commerce site, any retail site. You start with a plethora of products, and the idea is that you filter and filter and filter until you find a product that you actually want to purchase. If you think about it from that kind of side of things, the idea of the filters is that you get to a series of cases or a case that you want to work on based on the filters that you've utilized. I think the other part that we're trying to solve, and this comes back to the feedback that people were looking for a more holistic view, is that there's three parts to RentSense that I see as they're quite prescriptive, quite wooden in terms of the way that they operate, and that's in regards to patches, rules, and priorities. The system's set up to kind of have that individual patch, that individual rule, that individual priority. And I think the idea of advanced case lists is to open up RentSense, for want of a better phrase, so that people can utilize multiple patches, multiple rules, multiple priorities, and then filter as they want to work, essentially. So the idea of it being prescriptive before, it works for some people. The advanced case list is for other people that want to work in different ways and utilize RentSense as best as they can. Ultimately, the idea is, and we'll get to what it looks like, in terms of the way that we're pitching advanced case lists, certainly in this first iteration that hopefully comes sooner rather than later, it's another part of the system. It's not a replacement for WorkTray at all. It's an alternative approach to WorkTray, I think. The idea is that a user has a series of filters. Those filters, with use, return a set of search results. So the idea of the filters at the top there, you can see in terms of patch, rule, priority, the idea is that a user can use those drop downs and they can select multiple patches, multiple rules, multiple priorities. They can utilize the search as best as they want. And then we add in things like the gross balance. And then we've introduced as well a kind of, we're calling it a tri-state concept, which sounds like a really cool thing. But really, it's in terms of what it does is it filters out or filters in, or perhaps in terms of the filter search, we're not actually that bothered in terms of things. So we can incorporate everything in regards to universal credit, breathing space, on hold, and then whether we want to look at completed cases, contact recommended as well. So again, it's a more holistic view. It's opening up RentSense to our users rather than kind of specific pigeonholes, which is what the WorkTray, I guess, provides us with. In terms of a couple of bits of features here, we've got things like the reset all filters to default, a really nice feature so that we don't have to go in and out of the system. And we can start search results as best as we can. And then in terms of updating results as well. Once we hit that update results, once we filter and filter, we'll have a nice table as we have here in terms of the search results that we've done. That's quite familiar, I guess, to the majority of people. We've kept that quite familiar for a reason. We've introduced a couple of different new parts to this. Things like the unactioned weeks in here. I think that was something. So the idea of taking this to the product focus group was really what filters are going to be required, and then we translated that to what's going to be required in terms of the output of this. And I think unactioned weeks is probably one that we've had most feedback on, and the one that people I think are a little bit excited about. Essentially, that's just displaying how many unactioned weeks we've got that, but we've never had that in terms of the table before. So that's a new kind of introduction in terms of what advanced case list is going to operate with. And then things like the info, I think that just makes it a little bit more intuitive in terms of utilizing the icons that we've got in place there as well. And hopefully it doesn't take up too much real estate in regards to the table. So we've tried to get as much into the table as possible and having the most pertinent points in there. So ultimately an officer can go into advanced case list, or a manager, they can go into our advanced case list, they can use the filters, and the information in the table that's presented is as pertinent as humanly possible so that users can deal with those cases.
Thank you. So as you can see, there's been quite a lot of work happening just with the work that Chris has been doing and Josh. We're just continually evolving, and it doesn't end there. There's obviously a roadmap of things that we want to work on at the moment. There's a nice little visual here of a roadmap. So case on hold, like we mentioned before, being rolled out and continued kind of development in that space. Automated arrears prevention, sort of looking at that AI machine learning predictability, and then advanced case list as mentioned by Josh there. In terms of 2024 priorities, We're going to look at things like redesigning the work trays a little bit more, again, introducing a bit more information, making that flow a lot better. These seem like small things, but I think they do matter to somebody who's working, income officers who are working day in, day out on RentSense. Single sign-on is another area as we move into sort of multi-product, and some customers will have our RepairSense solutions as well. Being able to seamlessly transition between products is really important for us, as well as all the security benefits. Optimal contact is another area that we're looking at in terms of AI. So we know that we have all this information around how tenants are contacting, and can we actually build an AI model again, looking at all that data, your data, to see what's the best efficient way to contact a tenant. Do they prefer to be contacted by text message? Do they want to be called? What's that? Do they want a house visit? We're going to start looking at that data as well in the new year and see if we can build a model around that to provide that ability, because then the possibilities from there are even greater. You can start then looking at times of day. You can look at things such as automating all the tenants that maybe like to be contacted by a text message. So that's another exciting product and an area we're going to start exploring. Further integrations. So we know we want to integrate right back is something that we get asked about quite a lot. It involves partnering with HMSs and making sure that they are happy to open up their data so we can push it back in there. And then finally, payment journeys is also something we're looking at with Ascendex potentially. So quite a lot going on, and hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour of everything that we've done. One last poll here. Is there any sort of number one features that you would like to see in the next 12 months? And it's a free text response here, so it will create a word cloud. Just curious to see. Is there anything that we haven't talked about or anything you'd be interested in? It's really interesting. Thank you so much anyway for listening to us. You can continue doing that. I think we've got a break now for 10-15 minutes. I don't know where's Emma. So thank you very much for listening to us. We're here all day, so please do contact us. If there's anything that we spoke about today that you're interested in, obviously use your friendly CSM or do get in touch with us as well. Thank you.